Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our global game jam prep with Unity. Here we have Kirk and a few others. Um, Kirk, Joy, Bradston, Esteban, and I hope I'm not missing anyone, but but I'll go ahead and hand it off to for introductions, and then we'll have a presentation followed by some questions. Question and
Yay.
Q&A. Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Mika. Thank you,
Andrew.
Gay Gaming Professionals, for having us. Hello, everyone in the future watching the recording. I'm Kirk. I'm the Senior Community Manager here at Unity. Well, not that would be a lot of pressure. I am one of them
Exclusively. It's just
exclusively,
you, Kirk.
just
It's
the only
only
person.
you.
The entire world, just one
Yeah,
person.
and we're here today to talk about Global Game Jam and get y'all prepared for the jam next week. It's gonna be very relaxed. It's gonna be panel style. We will have Q&A at the end of it, and I brought some friends along. So let me go to my next slide. And before if you're watching a recording and there was a place to like reply to this, please tell us your favorite snack and how many game jams you've done. Maybe if it's on the Discord or on LinkedIn, let us know. But if you're in chat, definitely answer this. So okay, cool. Let's go around the horn, starting with Joy. Would you like to introduce yourself and answer those lovely questions?
Yeah, so my name is Troy Horvath. I'm a senior program manager here at Unity, and hold on half a second. I am just recovering from being sick, so sorry if my voice goes off. I lead the Elevate program at Unity. Oh my goodness. I will drink more coffee as we go along. And the whole point of Elevate is to help users find their first job in games. So everything that goes along with that is what I do. My favorite food and drink, right? That was the question to eat, do during the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
so coffee, of course, I cannot live without normally, but if I'm jamming, it's absolute necessity. I do tend to go on the junk food route. I try to be a little bit more responsible, but I do love a pizza. But you know what I really enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy a game jam sushi.
Mm.
A
Mm.
nice little sushi tray.
Advanced.
Ideally
Oh,
from a
Trey.
restaurant. Ideally from a restaurant, but let's be realistic. Sometimes you gotta hit the grocery store if you gotta get your sushi fix.
Yeah, you got to get back to your code fast and
You
fast
gotta
and
be
furious.
fast.
Yeah. Thank you, Joy. All right.
Hmm.
Oh, how many game jams have you done?
Oh God.
Rough count. Oh,
Seven-ish?
okay.
Well, a
Cool.
little under 10 for sure, but I have kind of lost count.
Nice. Thank you.
Hmm.
Esteban. Hello.
Yo, what up, Kirk? What up, Alex? What up, Gordon? Thank you for having us, and what up, community? So my name is Esteban. I am a developer advocate at Unity, and might have heard my voice or see me like talking about multiplayer solutions and all that. But our team uh, goes goes uh, goes around and like visits different communities and just talks about different cool Unity features. Now, regarding the questions, a good snack for game jam. Honestly, you know what? A good slice of pizza, never fails. But the drink, I will say that evolves because in the morning, that's a good coffee. But then by the end of the night, a good whiskey on the rocks, sounds so
Oh, goodness.
There we go.
like like just sipping a little bit. And how many game jams? I would say, Joy. I think I'm around like your number. I think like 6 or 7 for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, nice. I like it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bradston, who, fun fact, just joined Unity. So, hello, Bradston. Please introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, welcome me, I guess. But hey everybody, really awesome to meet you. My name is Bradston, and I'm gonna give you my full name. Please don't, Bradston Stewart Alex Henry. I have four
Ooh.
names. I'm always proud of it. Unity Senior Advocate, focused on education. So all my students, faculty, teachers, I'm your man. So yeah, just been doing Unity for a very long time, a little bit over a decade. And okay, let me just get straight to the questions. My favorite snack, it kind of like rotates because I'm like a snacky dude in general. So
Okay.
I like sour cream and onion chips, white cheddar popcorn,
Oh, wow.
Cheez-Its, Kit
You're not getting
Kats.
near my keyboard, is what I'm hearing. You're staying far
So
away from my equipment.
I love everything that makes your fingers oily and sticky. As far as drinks, root beer. Root beer. Some people might not like it. I'm not a coffee person. I don't drink coffee. Just root beer. Just root beer.
Nice.
Man.
That's awesome. Thank you, Bradston. Oh, Joy, go ahead.
I was gonna say I do enjoy root beer, but not being a coffee person, that's
Yeah.
you're brave in this world.
Yeah. I worked at Starbucks. I was aiming to be like a master barista, but I don't drink coffee. So
Ah, did you know
Wow.
baristas also have game jams and they go to World Barista Championships? Just a
What?
tangent.
yes,
I
yes,
didn't know that.
I did
I
not
know a
know this.
finalist.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
sometimes like in regionals they have like a quick like you have to make up a presentation in a day and then you give an hour presentation. Anyway, super tangent. I already introduced myself, but straight to the question. My brother-in-law's girlfriend introduced me to boba tea with zero sugar, and I will take a jasmine tea with boba, and it's really relaxing and a nice break from like all the sugars and syrups. And then number of game jams, I will say that I'm gonna say a big number, like over 20, but I'm
Dang.
batting less than like
That's-
300 when it comes to completion, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Like, I think it's okay to do that because I'm just vibing at these jams, and yeah, we're just here to have fun. So, okay, so to get into the program, I didn't have a slide for the agenda. We'll have three kind of like the same vibe in terms of questions of talking about the game jam at a high level, just high level advice. And then there's a slide about a few Unity tools that we'll get into that has helped us a lot, and non-Unity tools, because doing a game jam is so different from producing a game, designing a game, solving design problems. Like it's another beast, and it should be fun. Like I think the reason why I'm so happy that Gordon, Alex, and the team invited us here was like there's so much pressure to game jams for a lot of people. It can be kind of anxiety driving. It's under a time box. People are like, "Oh, this is gonna go with my portfolio. I might meet someone from a studio, etc." And I want to recognize that experience, and I want to say, "Hey, it's gonna be all right." And we're kind of like your guides, like Bradston. Someone commented about your Zelda posters behind you, and you can call us, I guess, you're less annoying. Which one is the fairy from that one game?
Oh,
We're the
Navi.
Yeah, we're the less
Listen.
annoying Navis for the show.
Listen.
Listen, right. Okay, so we'll start off with the first high level question. Why jam at all? And I want to recognize the history of Global Game Jam. So this is the 20th, right? Or 15th?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's a big date.
Yeah, it's a big date. It happens every January. This is the biggest game creation event in the world. Ever since Global Game Jam came out in around like early 2010s, there's been millions of game jams, and we always gravitate towards this. So I wanted to get to know from the panel, why do you jam at all? Because 2 days of making a game is very intense, and we find this fun. So what? Tell me the reason why y'all jam, and anyone can just jump in. And
Why not jam? That's
That's the answer. That's the answer.
nah. I love it because you just get to meet people, and you get to find out about what they like to do, their skill set. You get to meet new people, like share with them, create something. And at least me personally, I always aim, if I go to game jam, I like to aim to go and do something that I'm not comfortable with. Like XR, for example, is not my forte. Maybe art, maybe UI design, maybe VFX. Oh my, it's so cool. Like how do you say no?
yeah, amen to that. And that's the game jams are the reason why I never fancied myself a tech artist. But when I started in the games industry, I started with a lovely group called RVA Game Jams based out of Richmond, Virginia. Shout out to them. And I was afraid of shaders. And I was also afraid of electronic music for some odd reason. So in one global game jam, I was introduced to HLSL and Tycho, which changed my life. So just a painting of how I live. So I really like that. Joy, how about you?
Well,
What do you
first of
do?
all, I love your specific fears. Like as far as phobias go, so those are very interesting.
Not
So
anymore. Not anymore.
yeah,
Not a
yeah,
phobia, but
you've gotten past that. That's good. That's
yeah.
good. Why jam? Because marmalade just does not work in a sandwich.
Mm.
Bad jokes aside, no, because it's fun. Like realistically speaking, whether or not you are doing game development in your day-to-day work or you're doing something adjacent, game jams are an opportunity to embrace the art form in its truly concentrated state. Proper game development, as my cat screams, proper game development happens over a very long timeline. And just like any job, it can get a little tiresome because you're working on the micro rather than experiencing the macro. I feel like game jams are your opportunity to kind of like pull back, experience the whole of game development all at once in a short time scale. And it's an opportunity to meet new people, of course, and experiment with new things. And also, game jams are a lot more chaotic and wild than, proper like commercial
Production.
game
Yeah.
production for the most part. And I think that's where most of the creativity is.
Yeah.
TLDR, it's great. It's just fun. And you get to
Yeah.
meet and talk with really cool people who are like-minded. So heart.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm hearing that Bradston. So giving a little peek into Bradston's past because I had to look him up before I got to Unity. So you were like an advocate at Asurion, IBM. So you saw like the non game dev side, but I saw you did like hackathons with them. Like, did you see the same thing like in hackathons and like how does that carry over to game jams and like yeah, what's you like why do people hack? Why do people jam? Why do people put themselves through this in like 48 hours?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, number one, I'll say this: the first time that somebody presented a game jam to me, I was terrified. I was like, I could barely finish the projects that I start by myself and I have months to do it. So it kind of scared me away. But honestly, like what I've learned doing hackathons, code jams, game jams, is just like the ability to create something and just make it happen, regardless of how tired you are, how many chips you've eaten, whatever it may be, is kind of like an exciting experience. Also, kind of going back to what everybody else has kind of shared, the opportunity to try new things. I kind of have certain things that I like doing in my general game development. But when you kind of get a new theme or a new idea or your teammates are kind of different, you kind of go different directions and you never know what you will discover about yourself and like what you will learn about your own processes and
Yeah.
how you process things. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons, but I think for me it's just like the challenge and like pushing yourself too as well. So
Absolutely. And just to shout out chat. So Sky said jamming is about experience and external motivation. Not only motivate you, but to force you to practice scope. Uh, you're reading our minds, jumping a couple of slides,
Yeah.
but like totally in line with what Bradston was saying. Matthew brought up a really great point about it's a great way to get back into game dev. I'll be honest, Joy, this probably, I didn't tell you this before we did our last game jam. So we do game jams at work outside of Global Game Jam. Joy, I hadn't jammed before that in like probably like a couple years. Probably,
Oh, dude.
probably
I
also
mean,
like
yeah, honestly, like
it was a nice like
thinking about it, I probably haven't done a jam since like an actual proper like off-screen jam since 2022.
mhm.
And I definitely missed it a lot. Like even even with the chaos that went down, because that's part of it with our own jam. It was still such a good, refreshing experience, and it kind of re-inspired me to get back to my own dev work, which I think was kind of similar to the point that you were just making. Because it is great to remind yourself that game development is fun, and for a lot of people, it truly is their calling. So it just takes that little catalyst to get you back in the dev chair, which may
Yeah,
be the chair that you were already in, but you give it a name then.
or the floor or the carpet or
Yeah,
out in the park. Yeah, and just
yeah, hang for the monkey bars.
hang from the monkey bars. And then shout out Mika. They said that jamming is really good for those with little to no experience, and that's also you're reading our minds because that's something that we discussed before we got online, which is how do you even know if like you like developing games? like in the long run. And game jams are an extreme way to get to it, but we'll get to that point in a second. That's a really great point, Mika. Okay. We'll go to the next slide. All right. So uncommon game jam tips. I assume during prep week for Global Game Jam, everyone's going to be talking about tools. Everyone's going to be talking about like take care of yourself. This is the slide for that. Everyone's going to be talking about like, oh, like share your files early, always be pushing. What are some uncommon game jam tips that that you keep in mind, Bradston, Joy, and Esteban? And I'm going to prime it with the thing that we were talking about in our pre-meeting, which is a few years ago, there was a person, their name is, oh man, they used to run Train Jam. Can I get a little help from the crowd if people remember the person who ran Train Jam? But they also were doing a game a week for 52 weeks. And there was a talk about it. And the overall learning from jamming every week is that during a game jam, you don't really solve a design problem, but you start on one. You're definitely not producing a game. And after game jams, no, it's very, very common. I don't have the data. This is anecdotal, but a lot of people do not solve the design problems further or produce their game. Like it's very rare, but we have an alum of list of games. So I guess like it's not a tip, but like a thought. It's like we jam for fun, but then a lot of people have looked at game jams as portfolio pieces. And I bring out to y'all like, hey, think about the post game jam process and think about the fact that you are just having fun and you're like totally just vibing with your friends. That should be topmost, like the vibes. But game jams are also really important to that stepping stone of like designing and getting to production. I want to set the table with that. And then to our panel, what are some uncommon game jam tips that might relate to that point or not? Yes, an April.
Yeah, I don't know if it relates to this point, but immediately what I was thinking about, I don't know if it's uncommon, but something that I've done and I found has really helped me prepare for game jams is to actually just check out other game jams and like the results of them and like look at the themes and look like, oh, what were the top games? Like, what did people do? What were the kind of off the beaten path games? And for whatever reason, that inspires me. Like, it gets me hype. And so I would just say, like, go check out, Global Game Jam 2024, 2023, see what happened there, other game jams, and just kind of like get your mind in that space.
Nice. That's a really good point. Also, not just Global Game Jam. Shout outs to like Ludum Dare. Shout outs to
Yep.
IO Game Jams. Thank you, Gordon. Look at that. That's why we're friends. We've melded minds. Yeah, like it's really good to get inspired because it's really interesting to see it in person, but also beforehand, you're like, how long have game jams been going on for a while? And there's so many ideas out there. Joy, Esteban, what are
Yeah.
you thinking?
So this one is actually kind of a general dev tip, but I definitely have utilized it a lot in jams, and that is the power of the walk. So what I tend to do whenever I come across a problem that I'm trying to solve and I'm basically just slamming my head against the desk, I will just get up and take a walk. And that usually shakes the problem loose enough that I could solve it. And this is something that you could do with your entire group. Like if you're all just kind of struggling, it's like, okay, let's go take a walk around the block. I kind of have an anecdote about this where I was actually working on a very complicated rig. And so it's for a game. So it's not directly a jam situation, but I was working on a very complicated rig. That there is basically like no resources for because I was going off in a very strange direction. And I sat there for like 3 hours, with no idea how to fix it. I'm like, forget this, gonna get up, gonna take a walk. And within a half block from my house, I had figured out what it was. But I was also really dedicated to the walk. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna finish this walk. But the entire walk, I'm like, I want to go home and fix this. And so I did the entire walk, but the temptation to like turn around the entire time was just so strong. But yes, the power of walking to solve problems it's like a secret weapon.
Snapping my fingers here.
Mhm.
That's a good.
I couldn't agree more with the walk. And I've used it myself. It's super good. Okay, maybe this one I'm gonna give it a shot on an oncoming game jam, but I'm gonna say uh, document your progress as for yourself, especially if you're building a portfolio. Like perhaps document your progress, and this is something that I've done for. And I'm sharing a game jam that I did with this was in 2022, lightship game jam that Niantic did, and I just straight up
Productive
yeah
fail.
yeah, 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 and it is more. This is sort of like my own personal development blog, but like I wrote about like what was going on, what I learned, what like how cool it was, what is it that we build, and yeah, just so it adds and it helps you remember what you did in your other projects, so that you can, if, for example, if you have a job interview in the future, or you like you can go ahead and revisit this and like, oh crap, this is what I did, this is what happened, oh these are the challenges that I solved. So I like to do that. In my blog I also documented my progress in Global Game Jam 2023, so I have those stories that I can go back, relive, and better share them again.
Yeah,
So
That's
multi-part.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So, it takes a
Esteban,
lot of
that's
work for
actually
that.
that's so cool that you do that. So like I have discovered about myself that I actually retain information better when I physically write it down. So I actually have a dev journal. So
Hell
like
yes.
I am documenting, like you can't really see, but yeah, I am documenting my current game production like in physical form, and it's so powerful. So whether or not you like to write stuff down or you like to type things out, yeah, that's such a great tip. And I love the idea of documenting game jams. That's so cool. I'm gonna do that. That's such a cool idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you feel like you don't like retain things when you're typing stuff, get a journal. It is perfectly acceptable to have a game dev journal. I found the process so rewarding. It really just it makes my brain happy when I actually physically write down my game development stuff. It's gonna be a little bit harder if you're recording code, but like I usually just record my thoughts and like the problems I have, and like how I solve them. So I don't actually get into code other than like documenting code names and where they exist in the project.
Yeah.
And
I was
and
gonna
can I
say,
third that?
oh,
Can I
go ahead.
third this?
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
gotta say this because I think that's such Esteban, that's such a great point. Because especially
Thank you.
like I'm thinking of thinking about even my career, like I think just having something documented on what you did that you can, number one, later reference if you're doing other projects, but as you're like interfacing with employers or new opportunities and things like that, like this speaks volumes, to what Esteban has done. And I think for me, I've found personally in my career a lot of success having a documentation of achievements, small, big, large, whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
triple down on that.
Nice.
Thank you.
I was
And I
gonna
will
say,
say like,
oh, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
so sorry, I will say like for those of you that are looking, it's like, oh man, I gotta like write everything. No. Like this is what works for me because I wanted to go into that detail. But if you just write the highlights for yourself, trust me, writing down like Joy said, whether it's digitally or like Joy's doing on her own journal, if you're doing it for yourself, oh my God, it makes wonders. But that's just me going that detailed. That's because I
No,
wanted to
yeah.
go that detailed.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I was actually gonna offer like one for code, which is I never start a game jam with with just fresh code. There's always a Unity package or a GitHub that
Oh,
I refer
good.
to with like a character controller already, with like really common systems like a game manager and like, things that are that you pick up from jam to jam. You should be prepared to like share that with other jammers, and then you'll find those systems as well at your game jam. And I think like documenting it in a blog, which I should do, and like keeping it in like not like GitHub particularly, but what's the smaller ones where it's just like a quick snippet that you can add. I don't even know if that tool is still there on GitHub. But you can have, yeah, just save your code, like and
Yeah.
we'll have a tool that we'll introduce later when we go over some Unity tools
Yeah.
to do that. And Joy, it sounds like you had a
Oh
point.
no, I'm just excited about sharing that tool because like
Nice. Yeah.
we were talking about it yesterday and I had kind of forgotten why I was so excited about it, and then Esteban brought it up like, oh yeah, that's right. So we have some really great stuff to share with you
Yeah.
guys.
And just shouting out the chat, Matthew said continuously post updates. Amen to that. You get it in the morning, like get onto your Discord channel and be like, "Hey, this is what I'm working on," and hit me up if you want to work together. Always a really good tip for that. Rather
Heck
than
yeah.
a journal, Sky says, I've got a little game dev notebook for ideas and designs. Yeah, and it's the perfect way to start. And then if you decide to go the Esteban route, then you can like take everything in your notebook, have it on your blog, and then it's nice to show people like in the future. Cool. All right, we're gonna humanize this. Last high level question slash humanizing the this panel. What are some game jam horror stories?
The
And I have
pain, the
mine, but I don't
pain.
want to start because I don't want to. Mine was
But
physical.
Kirk, yours is so good. Okay, yeah, it's very bad, but it's so good in
It
that it's
was
an
okay.
actual horror story.
Okay,
It
okay.
is.
Yeah. I know yeah, I will start then. Okay. I had a gallbladder attack at Global Game Jam 2015, and it was in the Microsoft building in Manhattan. I lived in South Brooklyn at the time, so it was a 45-minute train ride, and they were serving chicken sandwiches, like really healthy chicken. I didn't know that that could trigger a gallbladder attack, and we had just whiteboarded. I was starting to like code. And then I'm like, I'll be right back. I have to go to Dwayne Reed. And then I took all my stuff. Dwayne Reed visit turned into I'm gonna jump on the subway. And then I started Googling closest hospital to my neighborhood
Wow.
in Brooklyn while messaging people on Discord like, hey, weird story, guys. I can't jam anymore because my gallbladder or something. And I was really sad after that. I what I learned from that story, and that was the most extreme part of me, like having to dip at a game jam. But also in the beginning, I said I was like batting under 300. For those not in the baseball know, it's just like 30%. So I think I've finished 30% of my game jam games. Uh, those things will happen. You might have to drop or you might not finish your game. But for me, that told me that like some things you just can't control or like it is the way of that game jam. So really, really was nailed to me by the universe during 2015. But yeah, that was mine. How about y'all? Did y'all also have gallbladder attacks?
Man, you
Maybe.
you take the cake. So I think actually it's a really typical horror story. I have another one that's actually really kind of awful, but let me start with like the horror story one. So as a lot of people do, I made the mistake of not test building my game throughout development. And so I finished the game. It was the last day. I'm like, okay, I got to get this submitted. I'll start building it. And it ended up taking forever to build because I actually think it was the first time I ever built a WebGL game, which also very bad mistake to never build and test a new
There it
platform.
is.
But yeah, so I was building it and it was taking forever and it was just going on and on. Like, this is taking like a weird long time. This is like much longer than like building for PC. And the time starts ticking down and it ends up getting to the point where it's the last minute before it closes. And
Mhm.
I had put so much work into this game. I was really freaking out, and I managed to make it in. Like I'm like last minute, I was able to get it in. But yeah, so always build your games ahead of time because I was sitting there like not even chewing my nails, chewing my entire like hand off in terror. But yeah, so that's kind of the mundane one. I so a more extreme version. When I was teaching game development, the school that I was at had a game jam, and I was an adjunct professor, so I was actually not allowed to be there outside of the hours that they gave to me for teaching. So since it was an over like a 24-hour jam, I couldn't be there. So they got in the one full-time teacher, and I dialed in because they couldn't stop me from being, on Zoom. Um, And because there was only one teacher there, some of the students snuck in alcohol, and
Oh.
the teacher didn't notice. So some of the jammers got completely wasted. And I ended up having to go offline for a while because without getting into too much detail, my cat did something that made a mess of my monitor because I had picked him up and he was butt towards the monitor. And I guess I squeezed him. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to get him out of the way. And my student, so I was on Zoom and I just started screaming, and my students freaking out because they didn't understand what was going on. But it was like an emergency situation, and I could not explain it. I'm like, look, something, I gotta go. And so my students thought that something really terrible had happened to me. Meanwhile, I'm freaking out because one, how do you clean that from a monitor? And yeah, it was just like a very, very chaotic night, and I just feel very bad for the teacher that was actually on campus.
Just a regular game jam.
Just regular game jam stuff. Just screaming, cat messes, alcohol.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that was a very chaotic time. So that's me.
Bradson or Esteban, who's next?
I like to follow because mine is a little bit similar to Joy's. So there's one game jam where, okay, I'm gonna mention Unreal, but trust me, Unreal is an amazing engine.
We're-
Godot is an amazing engine.
Yeah, they're
It
all
doesn't
friends.
matter.
If
They're
you were
all-
there for
we're all-
Steve's
we're-
talk,
we're all
awesome
fans.
job. We're
Yes.
all, yeah, everything's all good. Yeah.
But I will say I'm mostly used to Unity build times, smaller projects, take a little time to build. So for this particular game jam, we're using Unreal, and I thought, oh, okay, let's build. It's only like I think it was like 3 hours before the submission time. I hit
You're
build,
fine.
and yeah, we're fine. And then I hit build, and then I see building shader 47 out of 6,900, and I'm like, what the? Again, nothing against Unreal. That's just how the engine works. That's just how
Damn.
it is. But I was like, oh wow, I did not know it was like that. So we missed the deadline.
The pain.
We were able to submit it. Game jams, they usually go overtime and they let you. We were able to submit it just fine. But yeah, that happens. Build
very-
often, test often. So please.
Yeah. Oh, that's super.
I,
Oh, go ahead, Bradson. Yeah.
I was gonna say I think
Oh,
there's a
man.
theme here, and I'm gonna follow up on this theme really quickly because it's kind of a mix. Because for me, it was in Unity, and I actually was trying. It was at I don't know if anybody's ever done it, but the GMTK Jam, the Game Maker's Toolkit Jam,
Yeah.
and it was me and a friend. He was a designer, I was the programmer. He could program a little bit, but I was managing like all the code myself. I had done a test build earlier, but I had done it for a desktop. So I was like, great. The game is good. We're not adding any new functionality. Like, we're good to go. It's just more cleaning things up. And because of the timing of it, it was like maybe midnight right before the submission. And I was like, great. I want to go to sleep early. I feel great. Our project is good, like great. And I went and I was like, oh, we need to make the WebGL build, which I hadn't.
Oh no.
And
Rest in peace.
this is the closest I've ever been to like breaking as a human being. Like for 5 hours straight, I was trying to figure out what it was. I can't remember what it was, but it was something so minor. It was something so minor. And I just remember like it was like 5 a.m., like an hour out. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And my friend was asleep because he's like, I can't help you here. But that was, yeah. So build early, build
Yeah.
often.
That actually
And build
happened.
to the
Joy.
correct platform.
Build to the correct platform. Joy, that
Yes.
happened during our last
Yeah.
game jam. It was
Yeah,
a
it
checkbox
did.
for WebGL builds, and I'm like, why isn't this pushing? We have our Twitch stream in like 2 hours. What's happening? And yeah, I forgot if you said it or someone said it. And time is finite. Also, I wish there was like 26 hours in a day. I'm just that messed up, I guess. But yeah, I heard a wise saying like you could always have more experiences, but you can't have more time. Right? There's
Very- yeah, that's
when
very
people say
true.
like, "Oh, I need more time," like it's just a
Yeah.
weird saying because you'll never get extra time. So Esteban, you're about to say something.
No. I fully agree about the time.
Nice. Matthew says JMTK is a fun jam. I've done it, I think, at least twice. JMTK is an amazing channel, and it is a great jam. Lots of great games. Miscommunication, this guy says. Everyone thought we were on the same page about everything until day one. This chat is amazing because they're alluding to some of the things we'll be talking about during the tool section. So we have some tips for that. And then I'm with you, Joy, on the build, just not working close before the deadline. That's a mistake that you make one time and never Yeah.
Man, you know, and what I'm really hearing is that everybody's fallen at the WebGL thing, and you know, that's getting progressively more popular as a like a jam type submission. So like I think what it is, the main takeaway from this, if you're building for WebGL, do it frequently and do it way before the deadline. I think what it is that there's perception because WebGL games are light that it's like, oh, it won't take long to build. Therefore, it's like, no, no,
Yeah.
do not fall into that trap. Learn
Yeah.
from our mistakes. Learn
Well,
from our suffering.
shameless plug. Unity 6 should be easier, right, y'all? Unity 6
Yes,
is
it is. Well, we proved it in a
Kirk,
stream.
I hate to point out that our last game jam was with Unity 6. You still need time to build a game, sir.
Yeah, you do.
True, true.
Funny moment of I got corporate vulnerability there.
It was literally
cool.
last minute, right, Joy? Something like
I
that.
know.
God, it
right.
was.
All right. So thanks everyone for humoring my three high level questions. But that's also like really important to talk about because you can't really make a game. We're not all robots. We're human with emotions and
Oh.
finite time. So it's something that we should definitely like put out there because I saw I saw the answers. A lot of people don't have more than three, like, or some people it might be your first. So if you're watching this, definitely have fun. This is an amazing experience. I hope you do many, and even the pros get it wrong sometimes. Is the takeaway from the last few questions. Cool. So now we're getting into Unity / non-Unity bits because I think Joey was saying earlier, when you make a game during a game jam, it is not traditional production. It is not, design, pre-production, production, post-production, ship, right? I don't get this is not a hot take. I hate it when game jams they have like the competition where they make you also market the game and then sell it online and then report. Ew.
Oh man, I've
can't do that.
actively avoided
Yeah.
game
like,
jams that do that.
Game jams is like I told that thinking about what you said, like the most concentrated version of it. Like I totally and with all that being said, you need tools, right? So what tools, any specific ones that help you with a game jam? I have pre-populated these slides, y'all. So let's go one at a time. And then if there's any extra that we forget, we can get in there. All right. We've been mentioning it a lot during the call. And we all agreed that GitHub Desktop is a gift from whatever God or being we all believe in. I think Bradston, you were saying that you're a big believer in command line version control and GitHub. Joy, I think we came to the conclusion that our mortality, we faced our mortality because we thought about Tortoise.
Oh
version
man,
control
yeah.
yesterday. So can
Yeah.
y'all, can y'all talk a little bit about, so I forgot, I think it was Sky who had mentioned like, push often, update often, whoever was in the chat. Totally right. Can y'all talk about how easy it is to use GitHub Desktop? Why pick version control? Why you should find a LFS setting
Yes,
in
yes.
GitHub Desktop. And then I wrote a little thing about want to practice pretend you're writing a book. I'll get to that after we answer these questions. So yeah, who wants to
Yeah.
jump on this one first?
Let me start out because when I first started in games, I was not technical. I actually started as a character artist and then belatedly realized that I was allowed to program too. But I did not understand version control at all. And because my first experience with version control was Tortoise SVN, I had developed like an unreasonable fear about version control. And even as I became more technical, version control still remained one of those things that was just beyond my comprehension until I discovered GitHub Desktop. And for whatever reason, it was just like a really user-friendly way to understand how version control worked. The scariest part about GitHub Desktop is logging in because it's a weird sign-in location. But yeah, it just all came together because it's laid out in such a way that it's easy for me to understand what I need to do. The documentation on GitHub is extraordinarily good. And it has links everywhere at all times. So if you get lost, you don't need to exit anywhere. It's just like, there's help right there. So I got version control because of GitHub Desktop. Like I finally understand it because of this piece of software. So if you're at the like even the tiniest bit uncomfortable with version control, give GitHub Desktop a try. Odds are pretty good that it'll help you get past that blockage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
That's
I
a
would
lot
100%. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I come from the more technical side. And, as he said, Kirk, I'm definitely a fan of command line, get commands and like rebase and, all that stuff. But I have found, especially in a collaborative environment, a fast environment where you need, your things are changing a lot. GitHub Desktop has been killer for me. I've worked with artists who've never used any type of version control before, and literally I could do a screen share and be like, "Hey, this is how GitHub Desktop works. Here's our repository. This is how you add stuff. This is how you put in your comments and all that." And it's just flows so easily. And I think even for those who may be approaching going a more technical route, programmer, gameplay programmer, what have you, this is a great entry into version control. And it helps you to understand the flow. And then you can get a little bit more spicy and start using command line. And yes, LFS, make sure whenever you create your repository, whenever you initiate it and get things going, large file storage is your friend. And sometimes if you forget to do that at the beginning part, it gets a little bit more complicated. So always, especially for game jams.
Yeah,
Large file storage.
I would be the loud person in a Discord server, or like if you're doing it through GGP or you're doing it with a local org, and there's an open Discord. I would really suggest being just like friendly nudge. Sign up for your account ahead of time and make sure all your settings are right. I think that would be really because a lot of newer folks, they come in and they don't have it installed, and it takes up a lot of your jam time. It's gonna happen regardless, but being a good community member and like shouting that out before the jam starts really will save you at least 2 to 3 hours of jam time, because the beginning is a lot of setup. So Esteban, looked like you came off mute.
No, I super agree with this, and I will say, like, for anybody that's on the call, if you already are familiar with GitHub or the version control software that you're going to use, please be the person and help the others use it, and that it also includes educate. Like, give them a little bit of tutorial, even write up a guide, or use a pre-made guide like the one that Kirk has just shared over here.
This is forever,
So
my bad.
I would say, please trust me. Trust me, they'll pay it forward. And in their game jams in the future, they'll be the person that they want to help others learn about version control and help the team.
Yeah.
But I super agree with everything and what Kirk just said about making sure that everybody creates their accounts before the jam starts. Oof, trust me. Yep. Super agree. That'll save you a lot of time.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out, so this is true at Atlassian, it's not a Unity page. But I want to highlight, so getting started, this link, and I can post it, and then Alex, Gordon, Mika, if y'all want to share it to your socials, like just this getting started and looking up, setting up a repository, saving the changes, and then undoing changes. Those are the 3 like foundations for a jam. You'll never, if it gets really bad, don't laugh at me, y'all. Git /RF remove. Like I will
do
go
what you gotta
nuclear
do.
if I like go too hard, and like I'll always have a master copy. Then I'll have one that I can nuke, and then I have one that's like the one that I'm incrementing on. So I have 3 repos just for redundancy. But whenever I'm working with a newer team, I just make sure that they can definitely set up and push and clone. They can commit, and then they can undo stuff and remove. That is anything more difficult, you might be lost in the sauce, unless like the panel agrees or disagrees with me. Like I think that's the foundation.
Yeah, I was gonna add, like you hit it. Like the nice thing about version control is, I don't know about anybody else, but I have destroyed the game before. Like I just did something, installed a package, just trying something, and just irreversible damage. But the nice thing about repos is like, yeah, you just nuking it is good. Going back to an old version and just kind of starting fresh. And that has saved me time and time again. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Also on the screen right now, make sure you have a get ignore file just for
Yes.
Unity
Oh my
files.
God. Yes.
This is one of the pages in the Unity Bible that doesn't really exist, but this is on GitHub's official repo, and this is a meta file for just Unity packages. You never have to commit your library files. Definitely do not. That's like gigabytes worth of space
Yep.
that you do not need. The only things that you need to push is like your assets, your scripts, etc. And this might be controversial for the panel, but I've stopped pushing Unity packages because the thing is, there's a common zip file within Unity called a Unity package, and if you push a Unity package along as like the thing that you're sharing, some of the meta files get lost. But with this .gitignore, I feel like everything is preserved correctly, and I've never had anything break on me since I've used this like reference .gitignore. So, unless there's any disagreements or maybe like tips, what do y'all think about that?
Quick tangent, Kirk.
Yeah.
I will say I'm gonna share. I remember that Unity launched a ebook on best practices for version
Ooh.
control.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sharing that real quick, and bam.
There you go.
That link, yeah, it's a free ebook on version control. But
Awesome.
yeah, there we go.
Yay. We could just use the
And
rest
it
of the stream
includes
to read this.
also
live reading.
GitHub, and also I believe that I think it's agnostic of whatever version control you use. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, it talks about our version control, GitHub, and also good practices on even separating out your tasks, separating files. So making sure that people are working in isolated folders. Obviously, at some point, stuff that you work on needs to be merged together in a scene. But for whenever you're building a particular feature, that it's good to work on your own sandbox folder, isolated from what others are working, so that
Nice.
people don't step in each other's
Very smart.
shoes.
Yeah. Super, super smart.
And just to follow up on the packages idea, I will say this. I agree with that idea, Kirk, like in general, like, hey, especially things that if you can get it from another place, like and it doesn't change, like a package, you just install it into your project. I say don't track it, but depending on your skill level and how often you've done those kind of things, like just kind of think it through if you're
Yeah.
not ready, like, you know what I mean? Like, just if it's, hey, I've never used this before, I've never used Git or anything like that, maybe it's okay, just kind of pass them along. But
Sometimes it's just a Google Drive, y'all. Sometimes it's just the master Google Drive. So, and then pass the USB drive right along. And like that's
Oh man.
whatever gets the game done, right? But yeah, like, and this kind of segues into that second to last bullet point. If you want to take the ownership of teaching, so I'm not saying write a book on the spot and teach them maybe like before the jam, or even like share with the community and like use Git to write a short book. I'm not asking for a lot of words, but practice with text files, and then take all of the stuff in setting up a repo, saving changes and undoing changes, and just pretend you're writing a book. Like it does so well because you don't have to worry about models, you don't have to worry about different assets, you don't have to worry about like the Unity overhead. Yeah, like, and then also it looks like, oh great. I don't know if anyone could see my chat window in the share, but Mika also showed that you can add your own. They have a loaded .gitignore file on. I assume this is the desktop version, and
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, when you're creating a new repo, you have the option of initializing with a pre-configured Unity gitignore.
Yeah, this is worth the time because you are collaborating with others. So, all right. Any final words before I go to the next slide?
Version control is good.
And actually, as a segue to version control, this is our Unity specific. It's a fairly new tool. This is called
It's super new.
super new. It's called Asset Manager. Friendly QR code. The wonderful Unity Learn team started a quick start guide to get you started with Asset Manager. Esteban was talking earlier about how he records everything in his blogs, and then we were talking about code. code always lives with you. You've probably made assets at game jams and you want to like move it from game jam to game jam. Asset manager is like the new standard for Unity 6 moving forward to have all your like asset store assets if they're multi-user, assets that you've made, code, music, etc., and move it from project to project. Joy and I used this in our last game jam for a crazy web jam. It made it really easy for our product manager to spend hundreds of dollars on assets that we really didn't have to use. But with Asset Manager, we didn't have to go to their asset store account. We didn't have to like hover over them with their laptop. They just like opened Asset Manager, added it to the account, added the users that are in the same like organization, and we were off and running, and we could just share assets this way. You don't need a Perf4 server or anything like that. No, very minuscule DevOps. And yeah, if the panel has any wise words about Asset Manager, please jump in.
Yeah, I do. So it took me a hot minute to figure out why the Asset Manager was so amazing, because when it was introduced to me, it was within the context of the asset store. And like I got it. It's like, yeah, so it's easier to share assets in a group setting. I'm like, okay, but and I just it wasn't really hitting it for me. And then I actually thought about it in the context of proper game jam, like or my own personal development. So I'm sure a lot of you, and Kirk kind of mentioned this earlier, will have like some scripts that you like to start out with on a game jam. And if you're like me, you'll come up with some code that you're like, this is awesome. I'm going to reuse this a lot. And then proceed to leave it in that one specific Unity project. And then when you remember it, you're like, oh God, where was it? And then you have to dig through all of your Unity projects to find that code. And you're like, why don't I organize my life? And you have a mini crisis. Well, the asset manager is the solution to this. So the asset manager is essentially just like a repository for you to put all of your own personal stuff in that you want to reuse over and over again. And it's accessible directly within Unity. So if you're in a situation where you're like, you've created a little piece of code, let's say a character.
Is everyone still here? I think Joy might have.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
she
Joy, if you
froze.
hear us, the internet's got you.
I'll just kind of hopefully she'll be back.
I'll
here,
message Joy. Yeah.
But I will say this, I 100% agree with what she was talking about, that idea of like managing like your reusable things. Because in the past, what I would have to do is I'd have to create a whole bunch of folders, and I'd have like utility scripts and, prefabs that I've used in other projects, and like hopefully pass them between me and the people that I worked with. And I haven't had the opportunity to start using Asset Manager yet. But even as it is, like, just I encourage everybody. I was going to find the link and I'll post it in the chat. But the Unite 2024 talk on Asset Manager is really great. It kind of shows the power of it. It's kind of like in hand with the repo conversation. This is kind of like a great tool to use alongside with it.
Nice. Esteban, what do you think about the awesome Asset Manager brought to you by Unity?
I think it's so awesome that I'm going to share how we used it in the Crazy Web
Ooh.
game jam link on the YouTube stream we did.
Oh,
So-
is that the video that you put on?
No. The video that I shared is like a little guide on how to use it, but this is us like when we actually used it for the Crazy Web game jam when we were showing the Asset Manager. So I shared the link so that people can actually start seeing exactly when we were using the Asset Manager.
Yeah.
But the other video that I shared is like a quick guide tutorial on how to use it. That's the other link that I shared earlier. But this is super cool because exactly you add people to an organization, and that's it. You have access. Everybody has access to it directly, all the assets, and I don't know. It's just awesome.
So I was talking to someone in our industry team before I got on this, and I didn't. I'm very like. I'm single track mind whenever I work on stuff. Is it true that like the industrial material library is like built into the asset manager and like a lot of other like pre-made assets? Is that true?
Yeah,
because I was
that's
told
correct.
Okay. So if you use the asset manager, you also get access to a lot of the assets that are like currently used in our product teams, including apparently in industry. And that materials library is amazing for like PBR shaders and like things that would be like physically, like realistically physically based. So yeah, it's again, you will be oh, there's us. Well, not me, but there's Joy and Esteban. Uh cool. Any questions in the chat? Just please post it. We'll be there. Okay. Nice. Again, we will be working together. And please scan the QR code, quickly get started. We appreciate it. Okay. Not a Unity tool. Miro Canva mind mapping tool. Mind mapping idea exercise at the beginning of the jam to form groups. Cool. I posted this in the Big Ten channel, and I could share it in the GGP as well. What I was saying was maybe if you start in a game jam and you're organizing, the best thing is like everyone gets into rough teams, but then everyone mind maps about the theme and the game idea, and you let the main idea of the group like bubble up, and then before you commit to that team, take a time to walk around the room and look at everyone else's mind map and see what ideas you'd like to work on. Because guarantee it's not one to one. You might like see that they're working on an arcade game and you might not like that, but then you're really versed in like UI and like text-based adventures and someone's making that. You could switch teams in that end. I love Miro and Canva for that because I've been using that at RVA Game Jams and Triangle Interactive for like years. So aside from like just brainstorming, but to the panel, what do y'all think about mind mapping tools? Also, how do you mind map in Unity? Which I've learned that you could use like game objects or you can use like world space UI to just leave it there and then hide it. Right? People can like mind map in the editor. Like, what have y'all done for mind mapping and like ideation?
Uh, at least for me, by the way, I believe it was Sky. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I believe it was Sky that brought in the point of communication. And oh my God, like this helps out. This helps to make sure everybody like can be aligned into what, not necessarily have everything planned out, but at least a good sense of like where you're going in terms of what kind of project you want to create. But I always, I always mind map outside of the editor that we're going to be using or whatever. So I always use Miro or Canva for it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely a huge fan of it. I think I use FigJam and Miro. And for me in the teams that I've worked on, we kind of use it early in the phase for just getting ideas out there. Like once we know the theme, we're just like, okay, everybody, you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, come up with the craziest game mechanics or the craziest like art style or whatever. And we just put everything down. And then we kind of do a voting process of like, okay, what are our top three? And then we move the note cards or whatever, what have you, to different areas. And then we might vote again. And I found that one that allows everybody to have a voice, because sometimes, some people have louder, stronger voices than others. And two, it really does help with alignment because you put it out there and you all vote on it and you all put it, make decisions. It kind of helps everybody go, oh yeah, like let's do this. I'm down. Let's make this happen. And sometimes you realize we've done it. We've done some mind mapping and realized that all of our ideas were terrible and that we had to like start over. But we ended up using some of the terrible ideas later for inspiration for other things. So, and also just another note, you can use it as a way of communication, as I think Sky had mentioned, to kind of when you are starting to work separately and like doing your own things, maybe the visual artist is like, hey, here's some cool ideas that I had for a design for a character. And the programmer is like, hey, this is what I was thinking as the flow for the program, without having to talk. So you can kind of stay in alignment throughout the whole process.
Nice. Before anyone moves forward on this panel, I put it on the chat and it looks like everyone saw it. We're gonna hyperspeed because we want to leave time for Q&A. Joy, if you have any like tips about mind mapping, please put it in the chat, and like anybody else in the panel if you want to add. There's only one more thing that we want to leave off with Unity tools, which is our awesome template projects that we have at either our Unity Technologies GitHub. Our asset store has templates, Unity Learn, and unity.com, I believe, has a resources tab. Really want to shout that out. And the QR codes for these are two projects that we chose before this talk. Bradston was really fond of the input system. I am as well when it works and it's like, working with me. But once it's said and done, this is one of those things that you can carry from like game jam to game jam. And we released a really awesome Warriors sample project where you can plug in well, at the time it was like Xbox 360. I think it's Xbox One in that. You can plug in like different controllers and the project will recognize it. It will map all the base inputs to like whatever input you have. This is really, really useful just to get quickly started. And then you can take that sample project, put in your base project. Also, a lot of people are working in XR right now. So the bottom QR code will tag you to XR Interaction Toolkit 3.0 sample. The team has been working really hard on updating the sample kit, and there's a multiplayer sample, I believe, on that GitHub. If not, definitely check the documentation because, XR is really hard to do just like from scratch. And I believe a lot of people start their games just from this template project alone. So yeah, don't be afraid to use template projects. And this is just a quick like view of, so you can even take the base game and maybe remix it. The video on the right is from 2.5. You can find a video on 3. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool projects to work on. Okay. This is the last slide before Q&A, which is Gordon was very excited to have Joy on the call because Joy runs a lovely program at Unity that I don't think a lot of people know about. And it's about like helping students get jobs. So I wanted to put this in here because Global Game Jam is a tool to add to your portfolio and like prepare you for a career. So to the panel, how can participating in Global Game Jam help you in your game dev journey and career? And I will tell you right now, I would not be here if it was not for Global Game Jam 2012. You'll see it in one of the Global Game Jam live streams that I had. And it was Global Game Jam that introduced me to my first Industry Connect, to my longtime friend that I jammed with for over 12 years. Oh my, and they went to my wedding and like, yeah, Global Game Jam changed my life. So I'm kind of the person one of them that exudes this slide. But yeah, and Joy, can you talk a little bit about the Elevate program and what you do to like help students get jobs and what you can start off the small discussion before Q&A about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try and keep this brief. I mean, kind of what Kirk mentioned as far as like how game jams can help with your game dev journey and career. First and foremost, to become a game developer, all you have to do is make games, and game jams allow you to make games. So there you go. You could achieve your goal right there.
You done did it.
And while you may or may not be able to come out with something in its form at the end of the jam that could be as part of your portfolio, it can give you a base to start to work on to actually create something that is going to be able to go into your portfolio. Or hell, maybe you did a really good job and it immediately can go into your portfolio. But the most important part of preparing to apply for a job is actually having that portfolio. And the more you work on things, the more likely you have something to put into there. So that's a really important aspect of the practical side of game jams, other than, it's good for the game dev soul. So jumping over to Elevate really quickly. So as I mentioned at the start of this meeting, Elevate is a program that's designed to help our users, or actually anybody aspiring to get into the game industry, get their first job in games. The primary way that we're doing that right now is by trying to standardize entry-level jobs within games and build reports about that so you could adequately prepare yourself for it. So I dropped a link in chat for the Elevate program. And if you scroll down or use the link to get to universal job profiles, you could see all the universal job profiles that we've built. I actually launched a new universal job profile before I took off for the holidays for QA tester. But I think the best way to think about these is one of my colleagues actually just calls them basically strategy guides for getting a job in games. And I think that's a really great way of looking at it. So the universal job profiles will tell you everything about what it means to be the specific job. So for a QA tester, what the expectations are, what skills you need, what you do in your day to day, and then how to prepare for it, how to apply for those jobs, resources for learning. With QA, fortunately, you don't actually need a lot of prep, but it goes through everything. And the goal is to give you a genuine resource that's industry backed to help you prepare for breaking into the industry with that specific job. This is just one arm of what the Elevate program is doing right now. In the future, we're going to be expanding stuff out to, and we're going to offer like reports and insights on like what the state of the industry is for job seekers and just everything that we can to further support people trying to get into games, because it's really important that new people with new ideas actually break into the industry, because that's how an industry thrives.
Yeah. Can I suggest something off of your job profiles? And it was
Yeah,
a
for
tip that we
sure.
gave earlier. Go to this required skills page for every one of these profiles. If one of these interests you, and if you want to experiment with one of these skills in Global Game Jam,
Oh, yeah, good call.
take one or two bullet points and you'll be like, all right, in my VR game, I'm totally gonna do something with vector math and like really focus on like a physics based game or awareness of geo. What's that? Ooh, sensors. I'm gonna challenge myself to not work on my Quest 2, and if someone has a cool device, I will work with them for Global Game Jam. That will help you connect any sort of work with the UJPs to your Global Game Jam, and you'll be ready to kind of like fill out these checklists that Joy has lovingly put together. So, and yeah, like there's so many examples, like I said, of people going to Global Game Jam and publishing their games, getting jobs off of Global Game Jam, but we've never had like like you said, a user guide, a prima guide to jobs. So
That's right. That's right. That's the entire point, is that, growing up, I always wanted to create game guides now, but ultimately, like, one of the bigger problems within the game industry is lack of unification. If you go from like job listing to job listing for the same job type, jobs are going to sound very different from studio to studio. And it's not necessarily because a specific job role does something drastically different in these different studios. It's just that nobody communicates with each other within games. And so they have their own kind of wild ways of describing these job roles. And it's really confusing to people who are just trying to break in. And so I'm really trying to build a shared language between job seekers, employers, and even educators so we can all get on the same page, because the state of the industry where it is right now, where it's so hard for new people to get into games, is a net negative for everybody. Nobody's profiting from this. Everybody's just having a really bad time, and it's something that everybody's trying to struggle with. And the key is actually just to start talking to each other. And so Elevate is trying to build that bridge.
yeah, and I also want to shout out one more thing before Bradston Esteban, if you'll have points, which is I mentioned I was talking to our industry partners before this call, and Global Game Jam could be like a training. If it's not a game, like a lot of the games jobs that we're seeing, it is very competitive, and it's a you have to have a cipher to read the application and go through it. I think the UJPs are so helpful in getting you to that first step. But then also, I want to encourage the group and anyone in the future watching this VOD to look at our industry page on unity.com, because we're partnering with Siemens, we're partnering with BMW, we're partnering with Mercedes. There's so many opportunities outside of a game job that will put you in a position to use what we call real-time 3D tools. It's not just Unity. Like, people use Unreal for visualization, for film, for architecture. Godot is being used for a lot of like simple 2D like learning tools, like in industry. Like, I really want to shout that out, because it's a net positive for everyone to learn these skills, no matter what the engine, and then apply it to either games or get your first step like in a non-gaming like job, but uses these tools. So, and any last words before we go to our Q&A?
I'll say this really quickly.
Yeah.
Game jams have gotten me the job. Like,
Yeah.
legitimately, I've inside the industry and outside the industry. I've
enough.
used my work like to go, hey, this is proof that I can do what I say I can do. And so that's all I'll leave it at that. So game jams, do it.
And have fun. There you go.
Yeah, don't forget that. There's a lot of information, and it got really serious there for a second. But also, it's a jam. We're jamming. Yeah. Thank you to the group. I can't stress enough how much, I appreciate all that you do at GGP. And I'm speaking on behalf of my team, but I assume they feel the same way. And like, we're here for any questions. We've put our LinkedIn in the chat. In the future, if you're watching the video, please ask your community managers at GGP or anyone to, ask for a contact if you don't have it. And we're here for Q&A. So yeah.
And before we get, just want to say thank you, all of you, for making time for us. Like, this is what it's about. And I think everyone's feeling it's only as good as we treat each other, like in this craft. And for everyone in the audience, I mean, gaming is a culture. Games are made by people, right? We hear a lot of the stats and the revenue and the this and the that, but this is the game industry. Like, this is what you're signing up for, is to treat each other well for as many years as you can. And then you'll make games. Some of them will even ship along the way. But if you're waiting for games to ship, you can be an unhappy camper for a long time if you don't love making games together with other human beings. So I would just say, be sure and add these folks on LinkedIn, but also add each other, because these people, although you can't see them because your camera's off, are the ones who are like self-selected, want to make games, right?
Yeah.
You're going to see these names again and again and again in different settings, because this is the vibe. Like, this is what it's like. Like, I mean, here we talked a little about like technology and technique, but really it's much about culture, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to treat each other for a couple days while we make these games, which hopefully all of you are going to be doing for 50, 60, who knows, 70, 80 years. So might as well get your workout in with a little, 2-day.
Yeah. Can I add before,
jam along the way?
Yeah, can I add to that point
Sure, of
before we
course.
get into the Q&A, which is like, I was talking to friends, and I think to some of the panelists, I'm like, people make each other sweaters, people make each other pottery, people make each other food, like, people make each other games. You can go to a game jam and just make a game for your family or to share with your friends, like, and that, I think that right there, there's so much discussion about like, moving up into the industry, because we do have to sustain ourselves and we do have to help ourselves out in that way. But also, like, a game jam is a good reminder that, like, that prolonged creation, like, no one just stops knitting and then they're like, "Ooh, I didn't make it into Knitting Corp LLC, LTD, whatever," right? That doesn't end there. Like, they keep knitting for life, or they keep baking for life. So I just want to, implant that into everyone's brain, which is like, make a game for, your mom or your best friend while you're at the game jam, and then like, see how that turns out.
I'm so here for Mom Jam, but
Mom jam.
hey, just put it out for Mother's Day. I mean, hear me out, but we'll talk about it later. Mika, do you have that link? Like, Mika, I know you explained yesterday, but the link where people can sign up, if they're shy, but they want to find people. Can you talk about that, Mika? Because I think that's super important.
Can I share the Discord server while you talk about it, Mika, and I can show the message that you wrote?
Yeah, of course. Let me just get it really quick. I did mention it earlier before we started, so you could present. But let me go grab that link. But basically, this form is basically for anybody who is still looking for a group. And also, if you would like to randomly create a team through the sign up sheet, basically anybody who is in that sign up sheet, you can actually be a part of each other's group instead. And one of the things that I mentioned in the Unreal chat yesterday was that this is probably like another way for you to practice not only like building teamwork, but also to practice your social skills, because I know some of us have social anxiety before we get into group projects. And usually the social anxiety is what blocks us from creating those relationships with other people. So I figured that by randomly selecting people and pull them into a group, this would actually start something. Think of it as something like if you ever played WoW or any MMO in your life, and you go into a random looking for group finder and you get pulled into a group that you don't even know who the tank, the healer, or the DPS is really like. You just go run into the dungeon and you just work perfectly fine because you guys know each other's roles and stuff like that. That's what this form is all about. So hopefully hopefully some of you will utilize this resource as a way to build a team without having to also scramble looking for another team to join that might be full. Perhaps you can create one just right here with everybody that's in this chat if you want to.
I found it in the Big Ten Game Jam. But it wasn't in
Okay.
GGP yet.
That's for that was actually specifically for the Big Ten folks.
Oh, okay.
There's one specific for those in GGP and system. Let me pull that link. I think Alex got
posted
it.
There we go.
So there we go. So that's what it looks like. You just need your name, your email, Discord handle, Global Game Jam username, and then and I will set up a team for you once I collected enough answers. Please do this by tomorrow because I'd like to get you set up, get you start talking to each other because the theme is actually going to be dropping in Friday, and I also need to
Friday. Oh,
I need to announce the theme too.
nice.
So thank you.
Mika. Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Mika. Also seeing all the puns about Knitting Corp LLC, really funny. Yeah, does anyone have any questions? You can put them in chat, or if you want to raise your hand in Zoom, I'll call it out. Let me end my screen share in case I start playing the Space Jam theme again. So remember, everybody get up. It's time to jam. Yeah. Sorry. I noticed that I, for one, would not be opposed to the Space Jam theme again. And Alex says, this is exactly what I needed. I was having trouble organizing a group, so I appreciate it. Nice.
I would ask one question, but besides the tools that you mentioned here, do you create your own tools to also help with your game jam? Because I know I made my own tools for my own personal projects, but I'm not sure if you implement your own to share with your team.
Okay. I I've done it. I've done actually like scriptable objects of like reusable game objects that you're gonna use. So I made like little tools like usually like when you're talking about like making tools like actually extending the editor or do you mean those kind of tools?
Yeah, like I guess one example I can use is if somebody in the team is not used to normal camera controls in the viewfinder, I ended up creating one that's inverted for them.
Oh, nice.
I'm actually an inverted player since growing up because I always wanted to be a pilot when I was growing up. So I had to learn inverted, but then I realized maybe it's not for me. But I still work with inverted, and I ended up figuring out how to invert the mouse look in the editor. I always usually tell people that, hey, when you're about to build the game, remove this because it will not be allowed in the compiler or anything like that. Something like that, or making your own dialogue tool because the dialogue tools on the asset store might be expensive if they were looking for the dialogue asset.
That's a great question. So off of that dialogue, I love using Ink by Inkle Games. That's always been my like dialogue system. But I've also had to write my own dialogue tool because sometimes, like you said, a beginner like would be working with me and it's harder to get them into that. Also, Esteban, when you're saying scriptable objects, I love clearly I love card games, so I do have a card game tool that I use every.
No, shocking.
Shocking. So like most of the tools that I use for different game jams are very genre specific, and it will be like something that's really easy to use for team members. So yeah, Esteban, you're really excited when this
So
question
it's
is
just
asked.
that scriptable objects are really are so freaking cool, and
Yeah.
it wasn't technically like a tool, but it is kind of like a designer enemy spawner tool that you add, and you can randomize the enemies that are going to spawn, and then just put these spawners around the level, and it sort of like gives a little bit of power for people that want to quickly try out a level. I don't know, it's fun to build. It's fun to build.
Yeah.
I'll say
Something
this.
like that.
I'll s-
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
that. Oh, sorry. We'll play the game. Well, I'll just say this really quick. I have a friend that we work a lot together, and we've done a lot of game jams. And he created two different tools. One for input manager before input system existed, so we use it quite a bit across our projects, and also one for 3D camera controller, camera manager, basically. So whenever we do a 3D like third person game, like we easily have one that we can just kind of start with. So yeah, I love tools.
Quick shout out for Odin Inspector. So while it's not necessarily building a custom
Yes.
tool, one thing that I really enjoy doing is using Odin to make a script component more comprehensible to people who perhaps aren't very technical. So it's just a really nice way to organize and design your scripts so they're really pretty. And I have been known to go a little bit overboard because it's so easy to use. But yeah, love me some Odin.
What a segue. I assume we have a lot of students in here. If you don't have the student plan yet, if you're on PE, that's fine. But if you switch over to a student plan and you have an EDU account, you get Odin for free. And Odin is a very expensive tool, and it's like the inspector and validator tools are amazing, and it's like $100 already in value, and then you get a coupon that stacks on the asset store. Which, by the way, I just learned Unity is releasing a dollar bundle next week for Global Game Jam, so I also wanted to shout that out. And that 20% can be used on that bundle aside from other things. So yeah, just wanted to shout that out as Joy brings up Odin, because they're an amazing partner, and you could build so many good, like, I love bars. I love moving
Yeah.
Yeah. No
Sliders and
scrolling
such.
things with
Yeah.
numbers. Give me bars and heat maps.
Yeah.
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah. And also hashtag not sponsored. I actually paid for Odin with my own money because I
There you
was
go.
so impressed with their tool. Like seriously, I started using Odin before we did this partnership with them. And I don't regret it because they deserve every penny. So it's amazing that students get it for free because it is such a valuable tool. And I think is actually a really great entryway for people who might be interested in like tools building. If you really enjoy Odin, it might be something that like, oh, maybe you should explore more.
Yeah.
I did see in the chat there was another question from Anuj, and I think this is a really good one. What are some hidden tips you all have for Unity that others might not know about?
Ooh.
I'm not sure if this is a hidden tip or not, but it's something that I feel like I haven't seen a lot of people use. So in my outside of Unity life, I do indie development, and I'm currently working on a game that has raptors navigating through an office space, and Shift F in play mode will allow you to focus on an object, and the camera will track the object as it moves. So I actually will arrange the camera where I want it, select a raptor, hit Shift F, and then just watch the raptor navigate around through the office. And it's really handy because you don't have to constantly move through the camera, and then you could just focus on like whatever you're trying to understand. For me, it was making sure that they were navigating properly. So yeah, Shift F in play mode. Camera will freely move.
My unknown. Bye, Bradston. See you later. My unknown Unity tip is that did you know with prefabs and the prefab editor, that blue blank scene where you just make your prefab and edit there. There's a file that is pre-populated, and you can customize that empty space.
Ooh.
And, yeah, and you can actually make it so that you turn off the blue background, and it's a transparency that is in a particular part of your scene. I don't have the documentation ready for me, but yeah, that is a super tip. So if you want to work on prefabs while you're in your jam game, you can change that editor. Google is your best friend for that one. So Esteban, do you have a hidden tip? Okay, you're good. We're asking him. You're muted.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You're good.
Do you have a
Oh,
tip?
no. I thought the Kirk, like, all of a sudden it's kind of like froze. I thought your intro had gone, but no, my bad. No, I'm good.
Cool. Any other questions? And also, hello, James Wiley from the social team. Thanks for joining us. That's James in the window. He's one of our lovely social media managers. So, any other questions? Thank you for sharing your. What are some advice for developers on scope and finishing a game? Ooh.
I have advice on this, and it's kind of the rule of all things for me. Come up with your game idea, then cut it in half. Adjust the game idea so it works as a whole, then cut it in half again. Always aim to create a game that's a quarter of your original idea, because that's accomplishable. And also it helps you really get to the core of what makes the game fun, because if you can cut it away twice and still have a fun game, you're really getting to the core of the game itself without all the extraneous stuff that's just going to take up time in the jam.
Yeah, I will say, to make it even realer, the cut in half, cut in half, cut in half again. Brian, think about your game jam game as proof for one explicit game loop, or one. Great example, if people can Google this game, Mushroom 11. It came out in 2015. And when it was a global game jam game, the person who made it was like, "Man, it's cool to play with the like the gack or the that
Slime.
toy that the slime." And that was like their thought when they were designing it, is like, can I make a game loop around the gack so you cut off the slime on one end and it comes out the other, and it like traverses through the world. And when they came up with that one mechanic, the point at which they moved forward with idea was like, this is fun to play with by itself, and it has many possibilities. So if you can get to that one explicit game loop, or that one, oh, this is really fun to play with, I wonder if I could play with this in 5 different ways, that is a great way to anchor yourself, because that cut in half and cut in half and cut in half again, that will apply to that. Because then you'll start going so hard in your first game loop or like design thing that you'll just like go off, and then you'll be like, wait a minute, I need like 3 stages. I need an end to this. So yeah, that's what I would add to it. And then Esteban, you're off mute, but
No, I was gonna say, like, I also agree. Like, the simple the better. Like, another. If anybody here has played Celeste, I believe that game also started out as a game jam game.
on Pico 8.
And- Say what? Sorry.
On Pico 8.
Ah, nice.
It wasn't like a full 3D thing. It was like a Pico 8 game.
Oh wow, I did not know that. But same as Mushroom 11. It's a very simple thing. It's like jump dash. That's it. And like, basically, like, if you have one solid, it's like Kirk mentioned, one solid game mechanic, boom, you're done. Like, not you're done. You're not done with the jam, but from there you're done with you have your base, and then it's just adding on more details. But like, keeping it simple. Yeah.
And to add to that, if you want to be that person in a group that like centers people, because there always is the idea person that like, oh, it'd be awesome if we did like these levels and like it would have like these things. You come back to that person with this advice and be like, what is the game loop, and how do we begin this and how do we end this? And it will like distill it. Like, once they like ask for all these things, they'll be like, oh, that is right, there needs to be a game loop. So yeah, hopefully that was a good answer, Brian, and great question. Sky said, my approach is to specify and finalize everything as much as possible to define the scope as accurately as possible. Totally. That the mind mapping and the communication tip from yesterday, or not yesterday, sorry, I fast forwarded in this one call a few moments ago, applies to that answer. So yeah, thanks, Brian. All right.
Great.
Are we all set?
Yeah, if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank you all for joining us. And thank
Yay.
you for presenting your presentations and answers. Your insights. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
Yay.
Are
Thank
we
y'all so
posting
much. This is so much
LinkedIn's
fun.
again? Let's see. Yeah, there we
Yes.
go. One more
Oh,
time.
thank you,
So
Alex.
we'll scroll up. There you go. Here's everyone's
Yay.
LinkedIn.
Woohoo. And
Nice.
don't hesitate to ask us again over. We'd love to work with y'all more. And happy jamming. Happy Global Game Jam 2025. Please tune into our Twitch channel. We'll be jamming a lot. And me and Joy are actually working on a game through
Yep.
Global Game Jam. So, and I will be in DC for MagFest hosting a jam site. And then Esteban will be at a jam site. I think the advocacy team will be. So
It'll be in Malaga, Spain.
Ooh.
I'll be there. Yeah.
the biggest site in the world. Fun fact.
Like 450 people, something like that.
Oh, dang. That's a lot.
Wow.
All right, y'all.
Cool.
Later,
Thanks a lot,
folks.
guys.
Bye.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.